Hello everyone, I'm Lloyd and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be reviewing something brand new. This is the new 3D pen from Geeetech. They're a company from China that usually specializes in low-cost stuff. One of the things that they really got into was 3D printing. More recently, they've been doing a variety of different 3D pens. Now, one of the things I like about Geeetech is they have the lower cost that you see from products straight from China. A lot of the products are actually pretty decent. And a big part of that is because Geeetech is a pretty big company, but they iterate and iterate and iterate and they actually improve. So I was talking to one of their reps and they said, hey, do you want to try out one of our pens? And I thought, you know what? I've worked very little with a 3D pen. This could be fun. Let's go ahead and take it apart and see what's in there. So, in the packaging, it is a fairly nice box. I got some instructions right on the package. A little bit of choice of colors. Anywhere I've looked, they've only had the one color. They have an older style pen. This is the newer one. And this is the one we're going to be opening up today. The box itself is robust. It's a nice, decent box. You know that I'm always a sucker for packaging. Inside there is the 3D pen. The pen itself has a little display that you can use to set PLA and ABS when you first power it on. This button will let you switch between the modes. These two will push out and pull back on the filament. That little screw there, I believe, allows you to loosen the head so that you can get in there and replace it. And it runs off of, I think it was 2 amps US and 5 volts USB micro, and the filament goes in there. This doesn't use proprietary filament. It'll take any 1.75 millimeter filament that you can feed it. Inside the box you'll find this. What I liked about this cord, or what I do like about this cord with this kind of pen, is it's lightweight. These pens are really light, and if you have one of these where it's not flexible and it's not light, it'll actually pull the pen and knock it over. This is your little pen stand. These I love. These are really cool. They are little finger guards you can wear that make it so that when you're printing you can touch it, and they're silicone so they absorb some of the heat. A standard volt or a standard charger. They give you a bunch of test filament to work with and a user manual. Last thing I did find in here was 2 things. One is a sheet of plastic that you can draw on, and then some little designs to kind of go through and draw. The truth is, these designs aren't very good for a 3D pen. I mean, that is tiny. Like, you're not going to actually be able to draw that with the 1.75 millimeter 3D printing end of any kind, but still, it's something good to start with. Also, I've noticed that these don't match this in terms of a lot of the colors that are in here. Some of them are close, but so if you're OCD and you want to match the picture perfectly, that's going to be tough. So, a bunch of different types of filament, both PLA. This does support both PLA and ABS, which is actually not that common. And in here is the instruction manual. Low temperature version and room temperature version. This is the one for kids that runs PCL. The one that we bought is PLA and ABS is what's supported. It'll tell you to plug it in. It isn't wireless, so it's got to stay plugged in. It's got an LCD screen, a speed control, And I'll kind of go through this after, but it functions in two modes. You power it on, and then you set PLA or ABS here and hit that button. That'll set this to start heating up, and I'll show you the process. From there, you can use this to feed the filament through, and this to reverse it back out. This is, once you push it, it goes, and then you have to hold it in to stop it. And they don't really describe a lot of that in the instructions. They just kind of say this is unload, this is load, but just be aware. Apparently, okay, so they say this is the temperature fine-tuning button, but it's actually the speed control and the temperature. So it'll move slower, like the little motor goes zit, 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 and it goes at a different temperature when you hit that button. And that's all they show you. So they show you a little bit of an angle, and they don't tell you anything else. So that's everything that comes in the box with this 3D pen. Next, let's sit down. We'll try to create a house. I'll build something interesting, and let's see how this pen works. More importantly, a lot of these low-cost pens die after 5 or 6 minutes. Let's see how the Geeetech one holds up. When you get your pen, first thing you're going to need to do is heat it up. So we're going to attach the power, like so, and you'll see this little guy here. When I push this, it'll let me switch between ABS and PLA. We're going to test a whole bunch of different filaments and see how well this pen holds up. I'm going to start with PLA as it's the safest, and then hit this button. Now that the temperature's been set, it's going to slowly increase itself. And it increases pretty quickly. You don't want to let it sit unattended for too long. It does have a sleep mode, so if you leave it there for a while, it'll eventually turn itself off. Now I've taken the little piece of plastic that they give me because it slips around, and I've just taped it down to the back of a book, but it obviously is not the most ideal solution. I'm going to go get a better surface. Once you have this up to temperature and you get it to the temperature you want, this button changes the speed. So speed 2, speed 1, and as you go through them, it'll change the temperature. So speed 3 is 204 PLA, so speed 2 is 185, speed 1 should go down to 175. Once that's done, we're now ready. I'm going to go ahead and load some of the filament that comes with it. This is PLA, and we will do a couple strips and just see how well the PLA holds up. So to get it going, you put the PLA in the back and then push this button. If you want to stop, press this to go, press it again to stop it. You'll see that it's going to extrude the old filament. I had tested some black in this pen already. So this is speed 3. Let's see how well this holds up. And we're going to just try to draw a line and stick with it and see how it holds up. We're going to try speed 2. And again, I'll try drawing a line. Once it comes out. So unlike speed 1, I find that speed 2, or sorry, unlike the fastest speed, I find pretty much unusable except for loading filament. Speed 2 does work when you're in a bind, but again, it is really hard to keep that consistency. And so when I was messing with it earlier, I mostly just kept it on speed 1. I'm going to let it kind of drop down in temperature. I've noticed that the filament that it comes with, most of them are pretty good. 1 or 2 has a tiny bit of a run, but it's not too bad. but you do need to get rid of that little bit every now and then to keep a nice clean end. And we'll try once again to draw a nice straight line. This is mostly my fault. I can't really blame the ink for the extruder for this. So I do feel like that speed is a lot more controllable. And if anything, even that speed might sometimes be a little too much. But let's try that again. This time I'll try and do some circles. This is the slowest speed with PLA. Try this at speed 2. Okay. And then speed 3. So that's speed 1, 2, and 3. You can see how it gets to be hard to control at the highest speed. That said, it's nice having a high speed when you're loading the filament. But I have to say, in terms of a 3D pen, and keep in mind I'm not by any means an expert on the subject, I'm going to be limited more by my artistic ability than I am by the pen itself, I feel like. So it does indeed draw quite nicely with PLA. Let's switch it out. So ejecting. If you want to stop the eject at any point, you have to hold this down and it'll turn off. Because sometimes you hit that button by accident. If I was to pick one fault in this, it's that filament unloading is a little too easy to do by accident. But okay, so that's the default stuff that comes with it. So this is just a generic-ish roll of 1.755 millimeter PLA. This is stuff I used to get from CC Tree, I think. Actually, this one I don't even know. No idea. Somebody bought it for me. But let's see how it works with generic PLA. A lot of times the filament you get with these is really catered towards it, and it's hard to get an accurate reading of whether or not that's what it's really like. So I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to change the speed to 3 so the temperature comes up to 200, and I'm going to load. So I can feel here it's not pulling through. And that's why there's... Oh, this is really bitter. This is really bitter PLA. There we go. Now let's slow it down to speed 1 so it's a little more manageable. And this PLA I put in here is pretty bad PLA. It constantly gets stuck in my printer and it's constantly stringy. That's what I want to test. I want to see how this holds up with PLA that even my printers might not consume. We got it down to speed 1. Let's try and draw something. Okay. That was really it. I ran out of PLA already. But it did indeed work just fine with off-the-shelf PLA. Next, let's try some ABS. To do that, I'm going to unplug it and plug it back in. It's going to ask me, do I want PLA? Do I want ABS? And I'm changing that this way. And then hit this, and it'll start its warm-up process. Now, this is some really old, like 6-7-year-old ABS. Let's see how it does with this. So the temperature is now at 210. So when you put ABS in instead of PLA, the only real difference is it increases the temperatures all around by 10 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and load this. Let's see how it does. Let's give it a go. I'm going to slow it down to the slowest speed just to make it kind of fair and equal playing field again. And let's do a line. Okay, that turned out pretty good. Speed 2. Speed 2 does indeed work. Speed 3. Very interesting. So it's kind of hard to see. It didn't stick to the plastic very good, but that's okay. At the end of the day, it gave me pretty straight lines. So for ABS, that's actually quite a win. In fact, I'd say that I like the look of the ABS better than I did the PLA. Let's use the rest of this filament and just create something and see what happens when we try to make something more concrete. Okay, so again, this is my drawing ability more so than anything, but cool. ABS works. Now the real question everybody's wondering is, what about more exotic filaments? Next, we'll try some TPU. Very flexible stuff. In this case, this particular TPU, I don't know about all TPU, I can only speak to the one I have, is it needs to be at a higher temperature than ABS. But let's see how well it works in this. I'm going to keep this set at ABS. And so 220 degrees. I guess that's 20 degrees higher. And we'll just load it. Oh, you can really hear it slow down the gears. And if I'm not sure, just touching the back will let you see that. Let's try doing a TPU circle. Now, TPU is going to always run, so if you're using that for this, just be aware it's always going to drizzle out. Anytime there's something in that hot end, it's just going to leak out. So, and that's just because it's not meant for TPU. That's not, I can't blame the pen for that. So, but let's try to draw I don't know. That does indeed work with TPU. Something you can do with 3D pens that's kind of cool versus 3D printers is repair things by hand. And that's pretty bloody cool. It's going to be ugly. And you could clean this up after. But that does indeed give you a rubber point. There you go. You can see the flexibility of TPU right there. Cool. Pretty neat. All right, so with that done, let's draw something. So I don't know if you heard that sound right there, but that was the sound of this gumming up in here because of this filament. And it's interesting because that's what happens on the 3D printers, and after a while sometimes it doesn't recover and it kills your print. And so it's interesting working with the filament I hate with 3D pens, because I can actually hear the problems that I see on the printers when I try to use this filament. Well, and there we go. This is completely unmodified, printed just using the 3D pen. So there we go. Completely made using just the Geeetech 3D pen. My review, it's pretty cool. It printed with TPU, it printed with PLA, it printed with ABS. It let me get pretty good detail. I was able to print for over an hour without having to stop, without it overheating or anything like that. And it chewed through all the filament I put into it. The amount of mess I have left over is quite minimal, and I'd have to say for a 3D pen, you'd be hard pressed to go wrong with this one. I'm quite impressed. So let me know what you think of this video by leaving a thumbs up if you like it and you agree with me. Put a thumbs down if you think that no, maybe this pen isn't such a good deal. And if you've had an experience with a pen like this or this particular one, leave your comments down below and suggest to people good 3D pens that they can pick up that are affordable. I am very impressed with this one. I'm going to be using this to fix all kinds of little things around the house. Thank you everybody, and I'll see you in the next video.